Having a physical disability and poor mental health is a battle many are fighting and winning. This is hashtag I Got This. In this episode of hashtag I Got This, the mind-body connection. Meet a woman with a rare condition whose emotions control her physical well-being, and a young man with chronic pain learns the significance of listening to his body. Michelle Fetter is rediscovering her love of piano. It clears her mind, makes her feel good, simple emotions she used to take for granted before her life spiraled. Michelle was in her mid-20s. She'd just gotten married and was juggling a big work contract that would pay the bills while her new husband went to school. She felt a bit stressed out, but didn't know it was becoming too much for her body to handle. Until she fell apart, and it took a long time to figure out why.
My name is Michelle Fetter. I'm 43 years old, and I have somatization disorder. It's a chemical imbalance in your brain. When you get overloaded with negative emotions, then your body takes it and turns it into physical pain.
This misconnection is also known as somatic symptom disorder. For most people, a buildup of emotions are released through an angry outburst or a good cry. For Michelle, negative emotions also become actual pain.
I started having some problems with my legs. They were jumping and I was really tired and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me, and I just kept getting worse and worse. I was having trouble sleeping. The pain got worse. It started spreading to different parts of my body, and I got to the point where I was unable to work, and some days I was unable to even roll over in bed or dress myself.
Frustration, disappointment, and worry simply fed the still unknown disorder, making Michelle's physical pain worse.
It was so confusing to go from being able to do anything I wanted to do and then being completely bedridden. I was 26, 27 years old, could barely move. I moved like an 80-year-old woman. I would have a lot of anxiety attacks, especially if I had to make any sort of big decisions. I was really depressed. I slept a lot. I was at my breaking point with everything. Every doctor's appointment I went to, I left, I can't believe it. I left in tears, and it was so hard.
Depression is a symptom and a result of the disorder. Michelle even had thoughts of suicide.
There was a couple times that I thought maybe it'd be better, but I didn't because I thought that the thought of somebody finding me would be worse than if I just continued on. And then thinking that made me realize that I needed more help.
Michelle found a psychiatrist who taught her tools to better manage her emotions, which in turn helped ease the pain. That was the key to unlocking her disorder.
When I was finally diagnosed, it was a huge relief, and they put me on a treatment plan of some different types of medication, some of it to manage the pain, and then some of it to manage my mental health and keep me more stable, because when my emotions get out of control, then the somatization gets out of control. Sometimes it's just pins and needles tingling. If it's too much, then it's as if I'm just being squeezed and my muscles are being squeezed so tight that it feels like my bones are being crushed.
It took a couple of years for Michelle to understand her new body and to strengthen it enough to be able to work and to live again. She fought for a future.
If it wasn't for the support of my family and my husband, I'm not sure how I would have gotten through it.
How many hours of shoveling do you think we're gonna have to do?
It'll be more than a few hours.
Her husband, Brian, has been a big part of this journey, admitting, though, he did not handle it very well at the start.
I did leave for a couple weeks. I left for a little while, probably out of panic, fear for myself, and just not able to help her, don't know what to do. It was a feeling of helplessness. Sitting there watching, it's painful. You start thinking about fear. What next? Is it going to get better? Is it not going to get better? But not giving an opportunity to make things work is not the right thing either. So I'm glad that I did come back and we were able to work through the challenges that were ahead of us.
Brian is still here more than 15 years later. So is the disorder. But now Michelle can better control it, and she's learned from it.
So when my emotions start to get out of control because they're depression and anxiety, my body starts to not work. So it's telling me, hey, you're starting to slide. Your mental health is not where it needs to be. I get those cues from my body, and I realize I need to take some steps to put myself back where I need to be. And people, lots of times, they don't have those cues, they can't recognize them. So I took that to heart, and instead of seeing this as something that's super difficult, I see it as a blessing. And my husband, sometimes I won't recognize it, but he will. He'll tell me, you need to slow down. You're starting to slide into a bit of a depression, or you're starting to show a whole bunch of anxiety. So take a step back from what you're doing right now.
Michelle has found methods to calm her mind, and she's needed them more than expected to help manage the next chapter life brought her.
Hey, Mama, watch me hang from the bars with no hands. Good job.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with hashtag I Got This. Welcome back. This is hashtag I Got This. Michelle Fetter has learned to identify the signs that her emotions are building, as well as techniques to lessen the pain caused by somatic symptom disorder.
One of the things that I would do would be I would be able to focus and then take the pain and like bundle it and put it into my hand or put it into my finger, and then just my hand would be numb, but the pain would be gone.
Taking a couple deep breaths.
She also uses an app on her phone to listen to guided meditations to calm her mind during the day and to help her fall asleep at night.
Allowing your body to release and soften.
Lots of times my thoughts are racing, especially with anxiety, trying to think of all these things. You're putting all this pressure on yourself. So the meditation just stops those thoughts, and or at least slows them down and clears out the clutter.
And for Michelle, that means less pain. There's a deep connection between psychological and physical pain, says Adrienne Van Gool. For more than a decade, she's been combining the practices of physiotherapy and yoga therapy. Adrienne says understanding the whole body is the most effective way to heal.
Pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience, and it's a product of the mind. So our brain is always receiving information, and nothing happens in the body that isn't processed by the brain. You have a headache, and it's hard to focus, or you're more irritable. You have physical pain, and yet it creates this disturbance in your mental health. And individuals that have experienced persistent pain, their brain looked the same in an MRI as those that had experienced clinical depression. And so it's really important that we address, or at least hold space for people to have their mental health discussed or voiced, even when we're treating a physical injury, because there is no separation. What happens in the physical body will have an effect in our mental health, our identity, our well-being. It's impacted, and they're very interrelated.
Sometimes joy and pain are a package deal, but worth it. That's what Michelle got when she welcomed 2 daughters into her life.
Are you guys okay with Mom only sending a few pencils to school instead of...
As she sorts through school supplies with her girls, Michelle remembers how worried she was about having kids. Surprisingly, they ended up making her body stronger, although she does have struggles emotionally with managing a family dynamic.
You know, too many balls in the air, and I'm worried I'm going to drop one of them, and then I'm still running around trying to do it all. And it just, my body's like, you're done. And the pain will start. If I try to ignore the pain, try to push through the pain, then it just gets worse until it tells me that you've done enough. You need to stop and take care of yourself.
Another way Michelle has learned to relax is by crafting. Years ago, she started making diaper cakes for friends as a hobby. These baby gifts are in the shape of a cake, but made with diapers and decorated with baby items. Michelle has since expanded into making personalized mugs, clothing, ornaments, and puzzles, creating an online business from her basement, Little Hugs Creations.
So many smiles, so much love, and lots of hugs as well. So that's why I love what I do.
It brings her happiness, and being able to work from home gives her more control over the amount of stress in her life. Plus, it gives her more time with her family.
There you go.
Playing in the backyard on a warm summer day is the life Michelle almost gave up on. Meanwhile, across the city is another person who survived a similar frustrating health journey, trying to diagnose what had been a mysterious illness for years.
My name is Andrew Hartman. I am 30 years old and I have ankylosing spondylitis. Ankylosing spondylitis is a rare type of spinal arthritis that also causes global inflammation around your body. So often your entire body is feeling almost like bloated and fatigued, and it's just really draining. And so it causes like a lot of stiffness if you're not moving for a long time. So I have to keep moving every 30 to 45 minutes to make sure pain flare-ups. And so it's a very in your day, all the time kind of disease.
Yet, it's mostly invisible. To see Andrew sitting on the floor playing with his cat, you'd never know he was in pain.
Good jobs.
Looking back, he sees the symptoms.
I grew up a lot with pains in my thighs that were like excruciating, where I'd be crying, and like they took me to the doctor and they called it growing pains. But then as I grew up, like they never really went away.
Andrew had to quit activities he'd done for years, like karate, because it hurt too much. Healthcare professionals thought it was in his head. That's part of the reason it took so long to identify the rare disease and why it impacted Andrew's mental health.
I would be really like down in the dumps of like feeling very hopeless, right? There's nothing I can do. There's other times of feeling, I think, anxious that it's all in my head, that like, oh, I'm making this up. And then also just those times of, which were motivating times of like anger and frustration, that like you're a doctor and you say there's nothing wrong, like I'm gonna figure it out.
He spent all of his 20s on an emotional and physical roller coaster.
And I was like just depressed and like just constantly stressed. My body was in constant like fight or flight mode. And I remember that feeling of like just not feeling like myself. And that was just so hard to like not know who you were anymore.
One of the toughest times was the start of the pandemic. He was quite sick, alone, and couldn't access any health care because of the shutdown.
I remember I was literally throwing up every day for like 2 weeks. I hadn't slept for 72 hours, and that was just, I remember feeling like alone, really, just defeated, and just that I thought I was gonna die. Like it was an actual concern that I was just gonna die.
Eventually, he was able to get into a new doctor, one who truly listened, and he was diagnosed about a year ago.
I wasn't crazy, and I knew like there was something I could do. And it's funny because like ankylosing spondylitis also isn't a happy diagnosis. Like it's like a very awful disease. Yet I was just so happy because I knew what it was, and like I knew what I could do for my body. I knew I could take what was good for my body and what wouldn't be good for my body, and like it took away a lot of the guessing and anxiety around my health.
Andrew's mom, Bonnie, has always been there for him.
Check.
They play chess or just hang out together on a regular basis. She feels enormous guilt she didn't push for more answers when he was younger.
And as a mother, you think, oh man, if we could just turn that clock back, right? Because he just toughed it out. Oh my God, he was in karate. He was a national champion. And then be told later, yeah, you were sick. Yeah, you were really sick. I was just like, why? I don't know. Why did I listen to those stupid little doctors? You know, why didn't I try harder? But it was like, I know why, but we can't beat ourselves up because sometimes we do the best we can.
She is proud that Andrew never gave up on his health, and as infuriating as his journey has been, it's also steered him towards a new group that puts him literally on center stage. Stay tuned. We'll be back with hashtag I Got This. Welcome back. This is hashtag I Got This.
Wow, I'm losing everything.
Andrew Hartman never imagined he'd be part of an improv comedy group.
I'm like a bird, but not.
Pain from ankylosing spondylitis forced him to give up activities he loved, like karate and volleyball. So he decided to replace whatever he couldn't do with something new and within his abilities, like improv.
Courage to do the skydiving? Yeah, I'm ready. You actually ready this time? Are you gonna start screaming?
Andrew was still moving his body, but not in a painful way. And he gets to become different people in different worlds, making others laugh. It's brought a new energy into his life.
And there's like this connection there and this trust that I never thought of with improv. And that dynamic I really just loved because it was something I needed in my life too, because I was having a lot of trust issues with like healthcare providers not showing up and things like that. And so it was able to help me with like connection with others, which is something I think when we have disabilities or chronic illnesses, we lose a lot of, is that connection with others. And so I find that it helps bring that back for me.
Another way Andrew has found to connect is by helping others deal with chronic pain.
I do a lot of research around community experiences of accessing mental health care or queer folks accessing care from healthcare professionals. And so I was experiencing a lot of the stories that I had been hearing that I knew were real. And that was actually one of the things that inspired me to start my own business, was wanting to create something different. But yeah, it came from a very hopeless space of wanting to find something better. And you feel protected, like your back up against something.
He created a safe, no-judgment online space that offers health and wellness coaching in various forms, has received a number of training certificates, and now has several part-time staff. He's also in the midst of getting his PhD in applied social psychology. This business gives Andrew new purpose.
Life derailed my path and put me on this other path, and I was able to make like gallons of lemonade and start like handing it out to people.
So how are you feeling today?
His own physiotherapist, Adrian Van Gool, showed him the value of a whole person approach to healing, which is the same concept he uses when coaching. Adrian says mental health and physical health are connected, and using the principles of physio and yoga to treat the mind and body together means more effective pain management.
Allowing the breath to almost breathe itself. So doing things that downgrade our sympathetic or stress response, and doing things that upgrade our parasympathetic or feeling safe response. When we can get more into a safe, alert state, and then we can start to regulate the pain and regulate the nervous system. Because when we're experiencing pain or disruption in our life, whether it's psychological disruption or physical disruption, creates the same stress in our nervous system. And it starts to become stuck in this maladaptive pattern. So some of the yoga therapy techniques we do help to kind of reset the nervous system and find some more regulation.
This method works for Andrew. The disease causes joints to fuse, so even though it hurts, he needs to move his body. Yoga is a gentle way to do that while finding the calm and safe space he needs to diminish stress and pain. And when he can accomplish that, life looks a lot brighter.
To grow to a place now where I feel so much more control of my life, and being able to do like social things that I know that are fulfilling and nurturing to me, but I found work that I can do that is very fulfilling to me. And I have like my research and my studies, and like I found this way to create space in my life for my disease, so that way it didn't take up all. And that as I focus more on my health, the focus of my disease gets less and less.
But never forgotten, there are many times Andrew just doesn't want to be social because he feels anxious or unwell. So he turned his home into his oasis. Big windows, bright paint, funky wallpaper, and lots of plants that have surprisingly become a reflection of himself.
And so I noticed that my plants are just this, they're a direct indicator of how like my mental health is doing. That as my plants are wilting, like often that's very much my energy too. If I'm expended, I'm like burnt out. And that if I'm doing really well and I'm more mindful in my day, my plants do well because I'm always like checking up on them and going and talking to them. I was able to actually take care of them because I was able to take care of myself.
Along with his cats, Andrew always has company and comfort, often right in his face while doing yoga. But the cats also give him energy. Both Andrew and Michelle are thankful their diseases taught them how to deeply commit to the well-being of their mental and physical selves.
You actually get to a point where, yeah, it did teach me a lot about myself, about my body, about that I create space for myself. I prioritize my health now. And so there are good things that actually can come from it.
For Michelle, those good things are her daughters, whose sweet voices are key to remembering what matters most.
Hashtag
I got this.
Narrator Martin Yap. Video production Honeycut Studios. Integrated Described Video Specialist M. Williams. Content Development Specialist Jim Crisco. Coordinating Producer Jennifer Johnson. Director of Production Kara Nye. Director of Programming Brian Perdue. VP Content Development and Programming John Melville. President and CEO David Arrington. Copyright 2022 AMI Accessible Media Inc.